What's up, YouTube? It's your girl T from T's Corner. See my sidekick, King Tut in the back. Doing a double take tonight because last week I was so tired that I couldn't talk to you guys at all. And I know you're like, what's the difference? You yawned through the entire recap. But I didn't do Queen Sugar Season 1, Episode 2, Evergreen. So I wanted to do that now, since I'm actually still awake and watching it. And it's going to be short and sweet. Um, the episode starts out, you see Nova planning something, and then her man comes, and he, just really wants to see how she's doing and everything. And he tells her that he wants to come to the services. She's like, that's probably not a good idea. It's going to be a whole bunch of people you don't know, and you're going to stick out. And he was like, well, are you saying you don't want me to or that I can't? And he said, just let me know. I'll be there. I won't talk to you. I won't say anything to you. I just want to be there for you. And she's not really keen on him being there. And he says, well, you came to my daddy's service. And I guess, his dad was somebody big in town because she said, all the press was there. The entire police force, it was easier to blend in. That won't be the case at my daddy's funeral. And he was like, just let me be there for you. I want to be there for you. So she went on and she told him when the service was going to be. And he did end up coming. We see that there's some tensions between the Bordelon siblings, as well as Aunt Bai and Ra, because I'm assuming that while Ralph Angel was incarcerated or whatever, that Mr. Ernest and Aunt Vi in Hollywood took care of Blue. And now that Ra's out, and he's been out 6 months and he's trying to get back acclimated to his life and taking care of Blue, and Aunt Vi is having a hard time of letting go and not really trusting that he's going to do or that he even knows what's best for Blue. And so they're butting heads a little bit. And he doesn't want Blue to go to the funeral. He says the funerals are no place for children. And Aunt Vi says, Blue needs closure just like the rest of us. He needs to be able to say goodbye to his papa for the last time. And I have to say I agree. While I think that, children attending funerals, it is harsh and it does do something to them. At the same time, I think that if they don't get that, later on that may affect them negatively. If they don't get their opportunity, excuse me again, for closure or to say, just to say goodbye. And so Ra has set up with his baby mom, Darla, to pick up Blue before the funeral because he doesn't want him to go. And she says she has to work, but it's an early shift, so she'll either get off early or she'll get somebody to cover her. Which she does. And this part kind of ticks me off because I'm like, when you've been down and you've been at your worst and your life has just been terrible, maybe even of your own making, Darla was an addict, but she's trying to get herself together. She done got clean. She got this job. She making $15.75 an hour. And the boss comes to her like, oh no, you're not off. I'm going to need you to stay because such and such was going to cover for you. But now I need her to work somewhere else. And I'm like, it's just like when you're trying to get yourself together, the devil will throw something up in your way. So that's going to make her look bad to Ra. Like, she's not reliable. And it's going to make her look bad to Blue. Like, she don't want to be there for him. She don't want to make time to see him, even though she does. And I didn't overstep, but I'm going to be everywhere because, like I said, it's going to be short and sweet. But I said there was tensions between the siblings as well. And it seems like Aunt Vi, Ra, and Nova are handling all of the funeral arrangements for Mr. Ernest without consulting Charlie or having her be a part of anything. And Charlie feels some type of way about it. But then we see that when she comes into the room, she notices there's a bouquet of flowers with a condolence note attached. And she says, oh, they're beautiful. And Nova says, they're from your mother. And she says, oh, that was sweet of her. And then when Charlie reads the card, Nova and Ra exchange a look behind her back. So there's something there. And we now know that they have that the Bordelon siblings have different mothers. So we'll see how that thing plays out later. So she says, well, I can pay for this, I can help do that, I can do that. And they're like, no, we done covered everything. You need to worry about what's going on at home with you and your husband, blah, blah, blah. She's like, I'm here, so I need to deal with what's going on here. So she says, okay, well, we're going to go and we're going to pick out the coffin. So we can all do that today at 3. So they go and they go to pick out food for the repast. And they go to the little side road fish market or whatever you want to call it. And the seafood's live and fresh. And Charlie's like, oh my God, is that moving? And Nova's like, yeah, that's how you want it, fresh. Have you forgotten? It's like, I know you don't forget, how we do things down here. And I think that that's going to be like a tone, because we found out, and I'm sorry because I'm doing these backwards, but we see that there's tension because Charlie didn't grow up living there. She just visited in the summer. Rod drops Blue off to school, and he has Kenya in his backpack. And Rod's like, whoa, let Kenya chill out with Daddy today, watch some TV with chill. So we have to find out what the significance of Kenya is, because a little 6-year-old boy walking around with a girl Barbie doll is not the most normal thing to ever happen, especially to take it to school and not be like embarrassed that somebody's going straight like clown you for having a girl toy. I know, from first-hand experience, my son, I love Barbies. That is the one thing I did not let go of in my childhood. And even though I've always been a tomboy, that was like the girly thing that I did. Cabbage Patches, Barbies, and watching Gem cartoons was my life as a kid. And so, I still have a pretty interesting collection of Barbies for a 36-year-old. And my son, he likes to play with them. He's 7 now. But a couple years ago, he wanted a Ken doll. And I'm like, I don't have a problem with guys playing with dolls. My mother brought me to this revelation of how men are not good with their children, because that's all little girls do from birth to death, is pretend they're mommy and then be mommy. And little boys don't do that because it's such a stigma with them playing with dolls. And so because of that, I do allow my son to play with dolls, because I agree with that, and because my father sucked and he has a deadbeat dad. I don't want that cycle to continue. So play with babies, be daddy, do all that. So he wanted a Ken. And so I bought him a Ken doll one year for Christmas. Big deal. So happy. He has his Ken doll. And his father picks him up on Christmas Day and was like, why'd you get a girl toy? You wanted that? And he was like, it's not a girl toy. And so we're explaining to him that Ken's a boy. It's like, no, but it's for girls. It's not an action figure. And so he let his dad get into his head. And after a couple of months of his dad down-talking his Ken doll, he didn't want it anymore. Didn't want to play with it. So I was like, okay, well, if you give it away, you give it away, and you don't get it back. And so he's like, okay, I don't want it. He gave it to me. And so I've added him to my collection, and now he wants it back. And I won't even let him play with it. I was like, you let someone else influence your decision about something that you made up your mind about prior to speaking to this person. So now you no longer have a Ken doll. And I done got all off on a personal tangent, but I'm just wondering what the story is behind Kenya and why Blue carries this Barbie doll. And I really, really, really want Blue to ask Aunt Vi or Aunt Charlie or Aunt Nova or somebody to brush Kenya's hair, because it is everywhere. That doll then been to war. So anyway, I think that there's going to be a little romance brewing between Ra and Miss Velez, who is Blue's teacher. I think something's gonna possibly bloom there. And also Remy Newell. Remy Newell, played by the beautiful Dondre Whitfield, was a friend of Mr. Ernest, and had a clutch key for him that he needed to pick up for his tractor or something. And he had been leaving notes. And Charlie went out for a run, and she ended up running down to her dad's property, at Dad's house. And she was in the house going through his things and just seeing, firsthand and for the first time how bad things had been financially, because there was past due notice after past due notice after past due notice on his desk. And she hears something outside, so she goes to check, and there's Sam Landry, and his dudes, and they're all out on the field and on the property or whatever. And then he comes up and introduces himself and is like, "Oh, I'm Samuel Landry. Everybody calls me Sam. You must be Ernest, California girl, Charlotte. He was so proud of you." And she was like, "Yeah, they call me Charlie." And he was like, "Oh, well, I didn't want to bother you. Just coming out here to look at some stuff." And she was like, "No, you didn't think anybody was home," which was the truth. And then he was like, well, he was interested in making her an offer, so to call him when she was ready to deal. And in all the things that she found, she also found notes from Remy Newell left at the house saying that he had something for her dad. And so when she went to meet him to get it, he told her, this isn't the place to talk about Sam Landry. And when you're ready for that clutch kid, I'll get it for you. It's nice to meet you. And I personally think something's going to pop off with Remy and Charlie. And I hope so, because even though David is gorgeous and that's her husband and she loves him, he done did her dirty. So, since he did, maybe she should get a little payback in the form of Mr. Remy Newell and see where that thing goes. But they make a deal. They go down. So after they handle all their individual business, they get back together and they go down to Price's funeral home to work out the arrangements. They're haggling the guy down. They get him down to like 900 or something like that. And Charlie offers to pay for it. Put it on our American Express. Nova, not to be outdone, says no. Split it. Excuse me. Split it between her card and my 2 cards. Put 300 on each. And I'll cover Ra's part. And Charlie was like, it's fine. I will cover his part. It's no big deal. And he's like, I don't need y'all to cover my part. I got it. And Nova looks to Charlie and says, I'm going to cover Ralph Angel's part because he can't pay you back. And she was like, he does not have to. It is fine. Ralph Angel's sitting there like, y'all just going to keep talking about me like I'm not here. I got the money. I got some money coming in. Just give me a couple days and I'll pay my part. Nobody believes this, including us. And probably not Ralph Angel neither. But he says it. So they go and they pick out the coffin. And they pick out the coffin, and I love the way that Nova broke it down. Even though it seems like she didn't make the decision with them, because she did. Because she still said, if that is okay with you guys. But she was really adamant and knew what she wanted and why she wanted it. And she broke it down saying that, their father was their black stone. So she prefers a white casket. Saying that, he was their strength. He was everything, and that now that he has passed, he's going to return to the light and let light return to light. Therefore, she wants him to have a white casket. And she says, if you guys agree. They do. And she says, and I want this pouch to be sewn into the lining, the satin lining of the coffin. And Mr. Price said, it's a Christian establishment. We can't have none of that here. And I was listening to some of the other reviews, and they were like, well, what do they mean by that? Okay, in case y'all have not noticed, Nova is a bit of a voodoo priestess. And voodoo and Christianity don't always see eye to eye. So, when Mr. Price says, we don't do that here, this is a Christian establishment, Ralph Angel speaks up and says, if she wants a pouch in the casket, it's going in the casket. And so she just starts to sew it in right there with red thread, which we don't understand, in this white coffin with white satin lining and a white pouch with red thread. Don't understand. But when he tells her that she can't, sew that right into that coffin because it's a display, all 3 of the Bordelon siblings hit him with a side eye that hit him like, but you know what? Y'all like family, so go ahead and do that. And so they do it right there. And then that is Mr. Ernest's coffin. And I don't know what the significance of it is. And I don't know if we'll find out. But I would like to know. I would like to know what the significance of that pouch is and why the thread was red. Then we cut to the Grand Boys, Mr. Ernest Grand Boys, Micah and Blue, playing checkers. And all this time that they've been gone, Dave doesn't know what's going on. Davis has no idea that his father-in-law has passed or where they are because they just up and left. And no one's been accepting his calls or his texts. So he finally, playing checkers with Blue, and his phone rings and it's his dad. And little Blue looks at the phone and says, "Your dad, better answer it." And so he talks to him and he lets him know his grandfather has passed. And so then he knows that they're at St. Joe's Parish in Louisiana. And so he's going to come down there. And when he comes down there, he sets up like a secret meeting, I guess you could say. But before we get to the secret meeting, you see Aunt Vi and Hollywood on the boat. And they sitting back on the boat and they're talking. And she tells him, if you still want children, you need to leave me and find somebody who can give you that, because I can't. And he was like, "Woman, what are you talking about?" And she says, "I see you with Blue and you're good with him and you deserve the opportunity to be a father. So if that's what you still want, you need to be with someone who can give you that." Because it's, obvious that Aunt Vi's a couple years older than Hollywood. So she's cougaring it. And Hollywood tells her, God, how did he put it? Because it was like the best line. It was something like, you don't have no need to be nowhere. You ain't in a hurry to go nowhere when you're where you want to be, or something like that. And I am where I want to be. And I was like, dude, you better say that. I'm like, this man, he don't care nothing about that. He got the woman that he loves and he is where he wants to be. It ain't about, oh, she ain't young enough to give me children. She's older than me. She'll probably die before I do. None of that matters to him. And I love him for that. Oh my God, Hollywood is like my second favorite character on this show, because I am from the pilot, Team Nova. I roll with Miss Nova like that, but Hollywood is my favorite guy. Although in reality, all the guys are my favorite guys, because as I said in recap of episode 1, I don't know who was in charge of casting, but I just think they went and found every fine guy who wasn't already on the show and said, "Oh, y'all come here and be on this show." So thank you, casting, yet again. So then Michael comes out and asks for basketball, and he set up this secret meeting with his dad. And when he goes, he's really torn, because he loves his dad, but he's really upset about the situation. He's upset about what his dad done, and he doesn't know the details of the situation yet. Excuse me again, guys. I apologize. It's 12:30 in the morning though. So he's torn because he doesn't know what the situation is. He doesn't know that if his father really raped someone, but of course he doesn't want to believe that. But he saw the video and he knows that his mother is hurt and upset, and he's confused, so he doesn't know. But he sets up the meeting with his dad, and somehow Charlie comes there to pick him up, or she knows he's there or whatever. And when she hears David, she automatically gets upset and she just wants to get Michael away from him. And he's going on about, when he won the ring and Ernest was there, trying to make it relate to, I know what y'all going through because I loved Ernest too. And she like, you don't get to call my daddy your family because you done did us dirty, and everything ain't about you, and go on about your business. So they're getting ready for the repass, and Hollywood and Nova are talking, and she's asking about Aunt Vi, and she said, "I haven't seen Aunt Vi this torn up since Ra's trial." And he said that woman loves hard, and it's hard for her to have to lose someone because she loves hard. And so they're talking, and then they hear noise outside. He looks outside, and she's like, "What is that?" And he got about a bunch of peckerwoods. I don't even think anybody still use that terminology, but I guess in Louisiana they do. So he goes out and is like, "Get that shit and go on back to New Orleans and get up out this yard." And they were like, "We're here on behalf of Charlie Bordelon West, who requested this for tomorrow. We're just setting up." And so Hollywood throws Nova a look like, "Come on now." She goes to find Charlie and rips her a new one. And was like, that is, and I was like, this is another situation where you can see the logic on every side. Now, as someone who does not cook, does not like to entertain, and would willingly pay someone to do all of the setup and clean up for me in most any situation, I understood where Charlie was coming from. I can pay somebody to come and set it out, and that's less we have to do, and that's less we have to worry about, and it's just taken care of. But at the same time, I understood where Charlie was coming from when she said, this is a family thing. People are grieving. We don't honor our father that way. We honor our father by making this personal, not impersonal, and hiring people. Now get them folks out of the yard. So Charlie is upset because she was like, you keep shutting me out at every turn. You're not allowing me to do anything. And I agree with her there too, because they are. But I think there's some, stuff that it's some family stuff that we have to get into to understand the siblings. So after all of that, and they pick out the seafood and all of that, they are, I guess they're preparing for the service. So it's that morning, and they're getting the programs and stuff. And Charlie is at the church by herself, putting the programs on the benches, on the pews of the church and everything. And here comes Davis, and she's just like, dude, really? You just don't quit, do you? And so she goes outside, and he comes out there with her, and he's like, no, it's not about me. You're right. I'm not being selfish. It's about Ernest today. And she just needed that moment. Her sister's coming at her. This situation, I lost my daddy. So she just needed that moment. She needed a shoulder to cry on, and Davis was there. So she did cry on his shoulder. But then reality set in real quick, and she was like, you know what? As much strife as I'm going through at the loss of my daddy and the heartbreak that I have to deal with, all the bullshit is because of you. And you can tell when that realization hits her and her face changes, and she was like, you know what, back up off me. And she goes on back into the church and finishes what she's doing. Well, everybody's getting ready to go. And Blue, I don't know where Blue is, but Ra is shaping up his face, his beard, and getting his hair cut or whatever. And here comes Blue with Kenya. And he's just the most adorable. And he says he needs his haircut because his mom's coming and he look nice. And so Blue tells him to go on and get his chair so he can get his hair cut. And Aunt Vi comes in and says, about time you shape that boy's head up so he can look nice when he goes say goodbye to his papa, not knowing that he wasn't going to the funeral. And Blue says, no, this is for Mom. She coming today. And so Aunt Vi's upset, and the look on Ra's face let him know that now I gotta go deal with this because she pissed off and I done messed up. So he goes out and he tells her, that's my son. I appreciate everything that you've done for him, for us, but that's my son, and you gotta let him be my son. And he don't need to see that. He don't need to see no death. All that's gonna come in his future anyway. He don't need to see it at this young age. And like I said, I agree, flip-flop with that. But she said something that really made me think, and I had to actually talk to my mom about this, because she was saying that he was spoiled because he was the only boy. And said, he was coddled, and his daddy put him on a pedestal. And he said now he mad with the world and fighting against him because the world ain't got no pedestal for him. And he has a sense of entitlement because he was the golden child or whatever. And I'm like, my son's an only child, and he's a mama's boy, and I love it. So, and I'm like, I don't want to coddle. I don't want him to not be able to fend for himself in society and to always be a mama's boy. I want him to be an independent man, but at the same time, I like that he's a mama's boy. So I'm like, I want to make sure I have that equal balance so that he's not in the world looking for a pedestal with a sense of entitlement as an adult. And that line just really had me like, because I've thought about it before, but, it's like when you have something going on with you and then you see it, you see your situation reflected somewhere else, and it really makes you think, it is a real situation because I'm not the only one who's going through it. These people don't know me. They don't know anything about my life, but they're speaking to my life. So that part really touched me, and I had to sit back and do a little self-evaluation, make sure I wasn't turn out a degenerate onto society. But they get everything moving and working, and because Darla's boss is a jackass, like I said earlier, she's not able to pick Blue up, but she doesn't call to say that she's not coming. So he's standing outside with his hair slicked down with a whole bunch of grease and water, and y'all stop pretending that was haircut, because y'all know that baby ain't getting no haircut. But she doesn't come, and so Ra tells him, come on, we got to get ready to go, say goodbye to Papa. So they take him to the funeral, and then you see the outside portion of the service at the gravesite with the Mason's brothers doing his eulogy. And this is where you find out why it's called Evergreen, because I was like, why is this episode called Evergreen? Ain't nothing about Evergreen. Where they talk about the Evergreen and how it lives on even though we don't. and I can't remember exactly how he worded it, but it was really cool about the way that the Evergreen uh, is evergreen and continuous, even though this life is not, kind of like the lineage that we leave and what we leave to those who love us when we do leave is how we carry on. And um, the family sitting there and just the immediate families in white, and it's amazing. And then when you see the three Bordelon siblings at the end, and they're holding hands and they're united in whatever comes next, and it's just that power. I seen that clip in the previews before the show started, but to see it in its full context through episode 1 and episode 2, and to see it then, oh my, I didn't even tweet that much that last Wednesday because I was tired. I had to tweet about that. The power just came off the screen, just hit me all up in here like, wow. That was like the greatest shot of anything I had ever seen. I was just mesmerized by it. Also, Darla came to the service, graveside service, because she couldn't pick up Blue. So she did get to see him that day, which was good, just to let him know that, yes, you were important to mommy. So I was really happy about that. And Rob was about to read her right then. Hollywood was like, now ain't the time. Let that thing go for now. And so you never did see them have a confrontation about that. But I'm sure there probably was one, because he's really confrontational. Seems like, to me, Ralph Angel has a lot of anger pent up. And we'll find out why. But it seems to me that he does have that. So, that is my fan recap of Queen Sugar Season 1, Episode 2, Evergreen, from T's Corner. Subscribe, comment, like, dislike, agree, disagree, whatever. I love talking to you guys. Good night.